Welcome to Eerie, Britain, your gateway to the haunted heart of the United Kingdom. From eerie whispers in forgotten villages to spine-chilling tales of ancient cities, we uncover the ghostly secrets lurking in every corner of the UK. But this channel isn't just about our stories, it's about yours too. Have you experienced something unexplained? A haunting that sent shivers down your spine? Share your ghostly encounters with us and we might feature them in an upcoming video. Join our growing community of paranormal explorers. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a tale of restless spirits, haunted mansions or spine-tingling mysteries. Your voice matters. Comment or share your story. Let's uncover the truth behind the shadows together. So light a candle, gather your courage and become part of the story. Because the ghosts are waiting and their stories must be told.
The aroma of bacon wafted through the narrowboat. Fred East, ever the captain, steered their vessel, the Wanderer, along the Grand Union Canal. His wife Mary poured tea. 12-year-old twins Billy and Sarah eagerly watched the passing scenery. The year was 1985, their destination, the historic Braunston Tunnel, the gentle rocking of the boat, the sun warming their faces, and the sound of birdsong lulled them into a peaceful rhythm. The canal, a ribbon of silver, wound its way through the heart of England. Lush green fields, dotted with grazing sheep, stretched as far as the eye could see. The air was thick with the scent of wildflowers and damp earth. This was the life. This was their adventure. Little did they know, a different kind of adventure awaited them, an adventure that would plunge them into the icy grip of fear. Days melted into one another, days filled with laughter, card games, and the simple joy of being a family. The further they journeyed, the more the modern world seemed to fade away. The silence was broken only by the gentle lapping of water against the hull and the occasional chirp of a bird. The landscape, however, began to change. Gone were the open fields, replaced by dense woodland that pressed close to the water's edge. The air grew heavy, the sunlight struggling to penetrate the thick canopy. A strange stillness settled over the canal, broken only by the sound of their own passage. The light-hearted banter ceased. A sense of unease, of being watched, crept over them. The canal, once a source of tranquility, now seemed to whisper warnings on the wind. They reached Braunston, a village steeped in history, its story intertwined with the canals. The hubbub of the past still seemed to echo around the ancient stone bridges and lock gates. Fred, a history enthusiast, regaled his family with tales of the canal's construction, of the boats laden with goods, and the lives lived and lost on its waters. The Braunston Tunnel, he explained, was a marvel of engineering. Over a mile long it was a dark and silent passage, a portal to the unknown. A shiver ran down Sarah's spine. She couldn't shake the feeling that they were stepping back in time. The air grew noticeably colder as they approached the tunnel's gaping maw. The light dimmed, swallowed by the impenetrable darkness ahead. A strange foreboding settled over them, a premonition of something amiss. The darkness enveloped them as the Wanderer slipped into the tunnel. The air was heavy, thick with the smell of damp earth and something else. Something unidentifiable. A low rumble echoed around them, the sound of their own engine amplified within the confined space. Fred shone the narrowboat's headlamp ahead, but the beam was swallowed by the all-consuming blackness. The silence was absolute, broken only by the drip, drip of water seeping from the tunnel walls. Then a faint glow appeared in the distance, not the harsh glare of electric light, but a softer, more ethereal luminescence. As they drew closer, the light grew in intensity. It seemed to emanate from the very air itself, casting dancing shadows on the tunnel walls. An unsettling anticipation gripped them, a sense that they were approaching something both wondrous and terrifying. They emerged from the tunnel, blinking in the sudden brightness. But it wasn't the familiar world that greeted them. The air was clear, the sky a brilliant blue, devoid of the pollution of their own time. The trees lining the canal were smaller, less dense, and the towpath, usually deserted, bustled with activity. Men in flat caps and waistcoats led horses towing laden barges. Women in long skirts and bonnets gossiped by the water's edge. Children in ragged clothes played games, their laughter echoing through the air. Disbelief gripped the East family. They had stumbled into a scene from a bygone era. Time seemed to stand still. The air buzzed with an unseen energy, a sense of history coming alive around them, but beneath the surface a current of fear ran cold. They were strangers in a strange land, adrift in time. Fred steered the wanderer towards the New Inn, a charming pub nestled on the canal bank. The sun was setting, casting a golden hue over the water, making the scene almost picturesque. The boat glided smoothly, creating gentle ripples that disturbed the otherwise calm surface of the canal. The building looked older, its timbers weathered and worn, a sign hanging precariously above the door, depicting a faded image of a ship. It seemed to whisper tales of bygone eras, of sailors and travellers who had once sought refuge within its walls. Stepping inside, the aroma of pipe tobacco and ale washed over them. The rich wooden decor and the low hum of conversation created an inviting atmosphere, making them feel as though they had stepped back in time. A fire crackled in the hearth, casting flickering shadows across the faces of the patrons. The warmth from the fire was a stark contrast to the cool evening air outside, adding to the pub's cosy ambience. All eyes turned towards them, their arrival greeted with a mixture of curiosity and suspicion. The chatter died down, replaced by the sound of scrutinizing whispers and the occasional clink of a glass. Their modern clothes, their haircuts, their very demeanour marked them as outsiders. It was as if they had walked into a different era, their presence jarring against the historical backdrop of the pub. A burly man with a handlebar moustache approached them, his eyes narrowed. "Well now," he boomed, his voice carrying an air of authority that demanded attention. "Ever seen your like round these parts?" His tone was both inquisitive and challenging, as if he was sizing them up. "Where do you lot spring from, then?" His eyes bore into them, waiting for an answer that made sense. Fred stammered, unsure how to respond. The weight of the man's gaze made him feel like a schoolboy caught in a lie. "We're from Birmingham," he managed, his voice lacking conviction. The words felt heavy and unconvincing, hanging in the air like a bad joke. The landlord chuckled, a deep, rumbling sound. "Birmingham, you say?" His laughter was infectious, yet it carried a hint of disbelief. "And just how long might that journey have taken you, with them fancy clothes and all?" His eyes twinkled with amusement, but his tone suggested he was not easily fooled. His tone suggested he knew their story wasn't adding up. The room seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the next move in this unexpected encounter. Panic clawed at Fred's throat. His heart raced as he tried to make sense of the chaos around him. The world seemed to be spinning out of control, and he felt utterly powerless. He exchanged a worried glance with Mary. Her eyes mirrored his fear, but there was also a steely determination in them. They both knew what was at stake. They had to leave, now. The crowd around them was growing more frantic by the second, and the sense of urgency was palpable. "Come on," he whispered urgently, ushering his family back towards the canal. Every second counted, and they couldn't afford to waste any time. They cast off, their hearts pounding in their chests, the stares of the pub patrons burning into their backs. The narrowboat moved slowly at first, but soon picked up speed. As they plunged back into the darkness of the tunnel, the sounds of the past faded. The familiar world was left behind, replaced by an eerie silence. The oppressive silence returned, broken only by the splash of water and the frantic thumping of their own hearts. The echoes seemed to mock their fear. The air grew colder, thick with a palpable sense of dread. It was as if the tunnel itself was alive, watching them, waiting. Then a figure emerged from the shadows ahead. It moved slowly, deliberately, as if it had all the time in the world. A tall, gaunt figure, its form indistinct in the gloom. The darkness seemed to cling to it, making it appear even more menacing. It was the spectral form of a man, dressed in the ragged clothing of a canal worker. His presence was both haunting and sorrowful. His face, pale and drawn, held an expression of utter despair. It was a look that spoke of endless suffering and lost hope. He raised a hand, his eyes fixed on them with an unnerving intensity. It was as if he could see into their very souls. The narrowboat shuddered as if an unseen force had slammed against its side. The impact was sudden and jarring, sending a wave of fear through everyone on board. The Smiths awoke with a start. Sunlight streamed through the porthole of the Wanderer. They were back in their own time. The canal was deserted, the silence broken only by the chirping of birds. Had it all been a dream? Fred rubbed his eyes, his heart still racing. He glanced at his watch. It was 3 a.m. Suddenly a loud knocking echoed through the boat. It came from the hull, just below their feet. Bang, bang, bang. Fred cautiously made his way outside, peering over the side of the boat. The water was still, its surface unbroken, but as he watched, a single word appeared, as if written on the water's surface. Beware. The word lingered for a moment, then dissolved into ripples, leaving behind a chilling sense of unease. The next morning the Smiths packed up their belongings, their movements hurried and tense. The once cheerful atmosphere was now filled with an urgency that none of them could quite explain, their laughter and joy replaced by a strained silence. Each family member was lost in their own thoughts, the weight of the previous night's events hanging heavily over them. The canal, once a source of peace and adventure, now seemed to hold a different kind of mystery. The morning mist clung to the water, adding an eerie quality to the once serene landscape. It now held a sinister edge, as if the very water itself was hiding secrets. The overcast sky mirrored their mood. Casting a gloomy shadow over their retreat, they couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, that unseen eyes were following their every move. Every rustle of leaves and every ripple in the water seemed to carry a hidden threat, that something unseen lingered nearby, just out of sight. The presence was palpable, a constant reminder that they were not alone. Without a word, Fred turned the Wanderer around, his face set in a determined expression. He knew they had to leave, and quickly, heading back the way they had come. Their holiday was over, cut short by an inexplicable sense of dread. The canal that had promised so much now seemed like a path to escape. The canal had offered them a glimpse into the past, a journey through time and history. But it had also shown them a side they were not prepared for. It had revealed a darker side, a realm where shadows seemed to come alive and the air was thick with foreboding. The stormy skies above seemed to echo their inner turmoil, a realm where time itself was fluid, where the past and present intertwined in a surreal dance. The distorted reflections on the water seemed to mock their confusion, and the dead refused to stay buried. They left Braunston behind, the village now a distant memory, overshadowed by the chilling experiences they had encountered, their heads filled with unanswered questions. What had they stumbled upon? What secrets did the canal hold that had driven them away so abruptly? What had they stumbled upon, and who or what had left them that chilling warning? The questions swirled in their minds, each more unsettling than the last. And who or what had left them that chilling warning? The ominous sign by the canal now seemed like a harbinger of the unknown dangers they had narrowly escaped. Their narrowboat adventure had become a chilling memory, a story they would tell with a shiver. It was a reminder that some secrets are best left undisturbed, a reminder that some secrets are best left buried in the mists of time. As the Wanderer disappeared into the fog, the Smiths knew they would never forget this eerie journey.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And don't have nightmares.